What I want to speak to is basically my experiences over the past couple of weeks and relate that back to the personality typing system known as the Enneagram, particularly the type I relate to the most being type 9, and more specifically onto the core sin of the type 9, the sloth. Bear with me because I'm getting used to a new camera setup and working with OBS to be able to share my screen and things like that. And I want to really make an attempt to try not to ramble.
You want him to do you so much you could do anything?
It's about my personal experience and how you could relate to that. And if you haven't heard of the Enneagram before, then here's your opportunity to do that. See, I've spent a couple of 2 weeks being off track. I've been working and being productive. I don't think that was the highest priority works. And that seems to be what the experience was. Very busy, focused on my task, trying to get it to a particular certain point. Come hell or high water, I was going to get it done. And everything else in my life took a back seat. You may be asking, hey, what's the Enneagram? Got a quote from, and I'll always refer back to William's work a lot because it's a big part of my life. There's a quote from this book, The Secrets of Natural Success. Well, an excerpt rather than a quote. So I'm just going to read from this for you. The personality typing model I use in my training is the Enneagram. In Greek, Enneagram means 9 points. So you see this diagram here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different personality types. This system defines 9 distinct types. It's an intriguing model developed at least 2,500 years ago. Some evidence suggests even 5,000 years ago in Sumer, now modern day Iraq. So I believe that's it was held in a body of knowledge understood by the Islamic Sufis in their mystic traditions. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's information that I have come across. One has to marvel at what kind of genius devised this sophisticated topology way back in the Bronze Age. Here we go. It is represented by the points of a geometric chart, see the diagram below, which also indicate intricate connections between the types. So you see how these different personality types join together in these rows here. Although modern practitioners of the system have named each type based on their essential disposition, traditionally each type was designated only by its number. While each number is assigned to a core personality type, that number reverts in low stress to the disposition of the preceding number in the chart, and in high stress advances to the disposition of the superseding number. So let's take 9 for example. So in low stress, a 9 will generally come down here to the 3. So we've got 9 being the peacemaker, if you're going to put the label on it. Peacemaker type comes down to the 3 down here being the achiever. And in high stress, the 9 reverts down this way down to the 6, who is the loyalist. If you get the idea that the different types, like the 1 in will come down to 4 and go down to 7, the 8 down to 2. Now, let's go on just a little bit further. On top of that, each number has a wing, which is the numbers either side here, right? So you've got the 9 in the middle, the 8 on the left, and the 1 on the right. On top of that, each number has a wing or wings, depending on which Enneagram school you belong to. Personally, I lean more to the 1 wing premise, but not religiously, meaning that it also draws on the numbers to either side of it. So as a 9, they also tend to integrate the aspects of the personality types on either side, generally. As an example, number 2 down here will come from 4 in high stress and go to 8 in low stress and come to 8 in high stress. It is also at times incorporate the characteristics of its 1 and its 3. Okay, it's fascinating. But I believe I'm a 9. That's kind of what I tend to relate to, which sits me up here when I tend to, in low stress, go towards the 3, and in high stress, go towards the 6, and I integrate aspects of the 1 and the 8, particularly the 8. That's my experience. Now, I really want to get into the core sin of the 9 and the slothful nature and how that related to my experiences over the last week of working on something that wasn't particularly of most import. See, I'm coming up for air today. I've been working hard on... It was sparked by a friend looking for some help, being down here, the 2's the helper. So a friend wanted some help with some IT stuff. Then also got some ideas and some sense of achievement and wanting to solve some problems that I discovered for myself in the thing I was building that related back to the work he had. And I just got completely buried and lost in that. However, that Doesn't sound like a slothful thing, right? That's the interesting part. It doesn't sound slothful. So what I want to do to explain that a little bit further is hand this over to another YouTube video by a lady by the name of Laura Crone. Now, I'm going to get her. She did a wonderful video called You Won't Like Me When I'm Angry, which is particularly aimed at the 9-wing 8, but she covers this slothful point and explains it really well. So I'm going to hand it over to her.
This is a classic example of a big recurring theme for 9s, the idea of going to sleep, disconnecting from their feelings and from any sense of self in order to avoid anything that might trigger conflict. Rizzo and Hudson connect this to the cardinal passion of sloth. I didn't mention this in the intro, but traditionally the Enneagram links each type to one of the 7 deadly sins, plus deceit and fear to make 9. That can lead to some pretty cool archetypal stuff if you're into that sort of thing, but it's not my personal favorite framework, especially as an introduction, and sloth in 9s is kind of a prime example of why. A lot of people take this concept of sloth to mean that 9s just want to lie on the couch watching TV for.
So I'm just going to interject here for a minute because suddenly we're not talking about Bruce Banner, which is who we were before, but suddenly we're talking about the sloth and we're seeing Thor here all of a sudden, fat and lazy. Why are we looking at Thor? It's interesting because that's when we look back at the Enneagram here again. Thor's a 3, okay? So Thor's the achiever, the hero archetype, the one that wants to be in front, be winning, is very competitive. But then you see in the Marvel Universe when he's failed and not achieved and not succeeded at one point, does this line comes back down to here to 9 and starts showing this slothful nature of the 9, which is really fascinating. It's amazing how well the Marvel Cinematic Universe characters tend to follow this, whether we're projecting that onto it or not, but the way it fits is quite fascinating. And so let's get back
forever. And while I'm sure that's true of some, many 9s express this sloth by staying incredibly busy, just like Bruce here. He's a high-performing employee, he rescues his coworker from creeps, he goes to this dojo and gets slapped in his free time. Even when he does collapse into his comfy chair with noodles and TV, he's still doing homework. Lazy, the man is not. But the 9s brand of sloth isn't so much about what they do, but how they do it. Like Bruce, slothful, sleeping 9s may be out and about doing a ton of stuff, but in a way that allows them to disconnect from themselves and from any emotional impact that the world around them would cause. The busy work quality of Bruce's warehouse job is one way that this can look, but so is the much more apparently demanding nature of his work as a doctor in The Avengers.
All right, that pretty much covers it. I think that's what I really wanted to get to, that point of explaining the busy work aspect of sloth, because so many people make the connection between slothfulness and laziness, where it's not necessarily, it's the idea of going to sleep to oneself, and one can use busy work even to the point of, say, workaholism. How do you say that? Workaholism as a way to disconnect from facing things. So let's go back to the Enneagram Type 9, see what the Enneagram Institute has to say. Enneagram Type 9s are accepting, trusting, and stable. They are usually creative, optimistic, and supportive, but can also be willing to go along with others to keep the peace. They want everything to go smoothly and be without conflict, but they can also tend to be complacent, simplifying problems and minimizing everything else. Here we get to the interesting bits. They typically have problems with inertia and stubbornness. At their best, indomitable and all-embracing, they are able to bring people together and heal conflicts. So I love this. They want everything to go smoothly and be without conflict, but they can also tend to be complacent and simplify problems. They typically have problems with inertia and stubbornness.
What day is this?
Some people talk about that ADHD hyperfocus, and I wonder if there's a connection between this and that particular aspect of getting caught up in something because you just don't want to face something. I know what I wasn't facing particularly was a lot of disclarity about producing these videos. For one, right? I've got through a period of lack of clarity about exactly what it is I want to deliver.
You want him to do you so much you could do anything?
About how much effort I want to put in, the balance of it. I just, it seems really simple to just go, hey, I'm just going to go and make videos whatever, let's get on with it. But then it's also can be quite daunting. And I believe part of my going into that slothful nature was a part of that. If you've been following my videos, you'll be aware of this mission of mine to build my brand. I daily, as a teaching from William, he teaches to do your choices every day. I know over this same period of time when I've been hyper-focused on doing this other extraneous work, I've not been doing my choices exercise every day. I was doing that with so much discipline and religiosity for months. Right? Probably straight from November through to the end of April, I was doing it daily, religiously, with discipline, and then it dropped off and I got distracted down on this rabbit hole. So there's a bit of a lesson about the slothful nature and a bit of an update, because these videos for me are about being authentic and coming out and showing what's really happening and what's really going on for me. And that's been a challenge in the last few weeks that's hard to come out here and just be honest. I'm trying to even let you see me stuff around with OBS and not get it right. It's really hard to turn this camera on and not put a fake face on and try and show your best. And when I'm here telling a story about one of my challenges is that slothful nature of mine, there's a desire in everybody, I think, when you put the camera on to try and show your best foot forward and set a great example. And so this is my mission, is to try and be honest, to show the wins, show the downfalls, show the pitfalls, the challenges that I'm going through. So leave your comments in down below. I mean, are you aware of the Enneagram? Is that something you've worked with before? Do you want to know more about it? Something I've been studying for years, on and off, not as a main focus, but it's something I feel I know a lot about, I can speak to. It's one of the things I want to talk about. If you want to know more, if you've got any questions about it, please leave them in the comments, because if you've got any questions, I can make a video and answer those. So I'd love to hear your take on it. If you're a 9 or a 9 wing 8, say hello down in the comments too. I am going to post this up on the Enneagram 9 wing 8 Facebook page. Why not? And thanks.